Ready? Okay. It's 1:30, this Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for April 6th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If everybody would take a minute, silence your phones or turn them off. And also, if you're not the applicant and would like to speak, please fill out one of these little white sheets and hand it to anybody up here so we don't miss somebody who wants to speak. Next item on the agenda is to receive the minutes. I can't make a motion, so I'll let you guys take turns.
I'll motion to approve the March 16, 2023 minutes.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, and did it register?
Did not register for motion or a second.
We got a motion from,
Thank you.
okay, cast your votes. Okay, I can't. I say yes. Ah, got it. Motion's approved. Okay. Cindy, we got some continuance requests.
Yes, we have case number 15231, continue till May the 4th. We have item number 8, case number 15311, continue till May the 4th.
And those are the only two you've got.
Yeah, the first one, case number 15231, is item number 28. It says 1.
Okay. Number 20. Oh, I see. Yes. It's on there. Okay.
And what was the second one?
Item number 8, case number 15311, continue to May the 4th.
Number 28. Okay. Do we have a motion on those two continuances?
Motion to continue item number 8, case number 15311, as well as item number 28, case number 15231 to May the 4th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Okay, cast your votes. Yes. Okay. All right, those are continued. Do we have any other requests from the public for a continuance of an item? Okay. No consent docket, so Cindy, if you want to call the first case, please.
Then we have item number 1, case number 15312, a request of Gary Schmidt from GT Journey Corp. for a variance to dumpster regulations in the C4 General Commercial District at 4920 Northwestern Avenue.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Would you give us your name and address and tell us about your application, please?
My name is Gary Schmidt. Myself and my wife are the property owners of 4920 Northwestern. We recently purchased the property to go with a new establishment, a new business. It's for a HTO. We have others around the city. I'm sorry, we don't have others around the city. We're a franchise. And so what we're asking today is a variance for the dumpster to sit in the, I guess that's going to be the southeast corner of the property. We had some, in the pre-development meeting, we had discussions about moving it to the northeast corner and the southwest corner. And just because of the neighborhood and the way it's designed in that area, it was not feasible. So from that, we're asking for input and request for the variance.
Questions, comments from the board?
Just a question on the enclosure, the trash enclosure that's going to go around it. What's the height of that? Do you know?
I believe it's going to be 8 feet. The 6 to 8 feet. Obviously, it's going to enclose the whole item. I'd have to get with the architect to confirm the height of it. But it does recess. That's like, again, in the application, I believe it
Yeah.
talks about.
There's an elevation difference between the property, the residential property and your
Correct.
property.
And also the elevation difference between the bank that's just to the south of us.
Anything else from the board?
You said that in the pre-development meeting, that the location was denied as to the southwest and northeast corners, or the proposed location?
I'm sorry.
As to the pre-development meeting, it was mentioned that there was a denial. Was that as to its current location? Is that the proposed location that was denied?
No, it was just discussed.
Okay.
The southwest corner, the dumpster would set in front of the property.
Okay.
And so closest to the western, if you look on I think the site plan, there's 3 parking spots on the southwest corner. We propose it to be there, but again, the frontage of western, with the big brick enclosure just doesn't really flow for the area. And then the northeast corner, there's a setback with all the houses in that neighborhood. And that's the dashed line is representative of the 30-foot setback. And so obviously you don't want it sticking out in the middle of the neighborhood. And so, again, we're trying to be conducive for, what the existing neighborhood, the aesthetics of the existing neighborhood.
Right. I'm more concerned about the smell. Have you gotten any feedback at all as to the residential owner that's going to be next door?
No, we made several attempts. My wife and I both made several attempts to contact them personally, knock on the door. We did leave them a letter, just introducing who we are and what the plans were, and construction would be starting soon, and we did not receive feedback from the residential owner itself. We talked to the other businesses around there. Of course, they were all excited and happy to see something other than the dilapidated little gas station, or it was a CNG gas station that has been unoccupied for many years.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they'll be happy to know HTO is going in. We've got one on the south side of Oklahoma City, and it does very well, I think. So, okay, that's all I've got.
I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Is there anybody that wants to address this application? All right, if not, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, motion to approve case number 15312 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception. Or a variance, sorry.
Yeah.
I will modify my motion.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so used to it. All right. Motion to approve case number 15312 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirement for a variance as requested in the application.
I need a verbal second.
Second.
Got a motion by Roberto, Don second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 2, case number 15313, a request of Conrad Carr on behalf of We Buy Homes for a variance to a front setback regulation in the R1 district located at 4800 Southeast 50th Street.
Afternoon.
Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Conrad Carr, and I live in 500 Point Parkway Boulevard right now. The case, or the variance that I'm asking for is just for, there was an existing variance on the house before for a three-sided front porch. And at some point when someone remodeled the house before we bought it, they extended a bedroom out to it, so it's not a three-sided front porch anymore, and our mortgage company won't approve our mortgage until we get a variance because the house is built 3 foot over the front porch setback or front yard setback.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board?
And just looking at the picture, so where the window is, that used to be the front porch?
From what I understand, that actually used to be a garage, and at some point, they remodeled it and made that into a room, and they extended it out to the front porch. So now it's not, the variance that was there is not good anymore.
But the existing, I guess, the distance between the porch itself to the road, that's still the same amount?
Yes.
As far, okay.
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and you said, did you buy it in its present condition?
Yes, so a couple years ago it burned down, and the people that are selling it to us, they built the house back up again.
Okay.
So we didn't even know this was a thing until the survey got done.
Interesting. All right. I've got no other questions. You good?
Anything else?
Okay.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Is there anybody who wants to speak on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion then.
Motion to approve case number 15313 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a variance as requested in the application.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Madon. Cast your votes.
Mr. Noble, what say you?
Aye.
You're approved.
Item number 3, case number 15315, a request of David Box on behalf of James and Dana Leach for a variance to the front setback regulations in RA located at 12308 Thelma's Way.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, on behalf of the applicant, who's also here with us. The variance application before you is for a front yard setback. My client's builder was unaware of how to measure the front yard when you have the curvature of the cul-de-sac. So although the home lines up with the other homes in the neighborhood, when you measure it against what you have to do with the curvature of the cul-de-sac, it became a problem. You do have a letter of support from the developer within your packet, so we're asking for a variance to allow their home to remain. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anything from the board? I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Anybody want to speak on this application? Okay, guess we're ready for a motion.
Just a quick question. As to the other lots that are just north of that, are they currently developed or are they undeveloped at this point?
Undeveloped at this point.
Undeveloped, okay.
What you'll see in the after is the line that our house is what the front setback line that'll exist north of us. It's just ours will be different because the cul-de-sac comes in.
Okay.
But the front building line will look the same, it's just we have the measurement flaw because of the bulb of the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And during construction and the foundation permit itself, the City of Oklahoma City came out and approved the permit for foundation and all the way through the house.
There were errors made on both sides.
All right. No other questions. I'll motion to approve case number 15315 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for the variance requested in the application.
We get a second?
Second.
Don made the motion, made the second. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
You're approved.
Item number 4, case number 15316, a request of Melissa Kennedy for a variance to the maximum height of an accessory structure in the R1 Single Family located at 616 Out West Trail.
I'm Melissa Kennedy, the property owner at 616 Out West Trail in Yukon, and I'm just wanting to build a metal shop accessory building in the back of our property, and we've got kind of oversized properties on that side of the street. So I've got about 1 1/4 acre. So I think the maximum for under 1.5 acres per the code is 12 feet. So I just wanted an extra couple of feet to do a 14-foot high building instead of a 12-foot.
Questions?
I know it's only 2 feet. In the application, it says that the building will not be able to be used at a 12-foot, but a 14-foot, it would be able to be used for what you needed it to be.
Yes, so it's going to be used for like big projects. I need the extra height just for, it's going to be overhead lighting, so YouTube content creation. I would just like to have that extra height so we can get the right kind of lighting inside the building and be able to use it for large projects. Not for an RV. I think that's the most common use, right? If you're going to ask for something that big. I do feel like there's plenty of space back there. It's not going to be an obstruction to the back property owners or to the side property owners because of the space that we have.
Anything else from the board?
Are there screening requirements that you'll have to have?
Are there what?
Any screening requirements between the neighbor to the east? Additional screening, additional landscaping?
No, all I knew was that it has to be 25 foot to the fence, so I've got plenty of space on both sides for that. I've got about 15 pecan trees growing back there, so when those get full size in the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to completely cover that building. So we're going to have lots of landscaping and pretty stuff back there, so they probably won't even see it by the time those get grown.
Anything else? And I don't have anybody signed up. Does anybody want to speak on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, motion to approve case number 15316 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a variance as requested in the application.
Second.
You got us, there we go. Cast your votes. They're approved.
Thank you guys for your time.
Item number 5, case number 15327, a request of Rebel Sign Company for a variance to sign regulations in C3 located at 4623 Northwest 23rd Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Birchhold, 3400 Northwest 20th. I'm the owner of Rebel Sign Company here on behalf of Icon Cinemas. So what we're asking is the a variance to put a sign 12 feet above the building line facing 23rd. The theater front entrance faces north, which is a residential property, and then all the traffic is on 23rd south of the building. So over the years, as this property has been developed, that they've built a new part of the building and kind of a tower, and when you're closer in the parking lot, you can't really see the top of the theater anymore. So we're trying to get a sign up above all of the obstructions so that everybody can see it nice and clearly. The sign will be built out of all high-quality material, LED illumination. It will only light towards 23rd. No light will be going towards the back or the residential. It's just really to give them maximum visibility. The cinema is just located in an odd spot where it faces, and they've spent a great deal of money to bring this theater back. It was closed for a long time. The neighborhood really declined in that time, and just since they've reopened, it's made vast improvements for the entire neighborhood and made it a lot better. So we're here to just see if we can possibly get them a sign a little bit higher and a little bit bigger, and so people can see where they're at.
The sign's only lit to the south?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? I do have a couple of people signed up to
Yes.
speak on this one, so if you'll take a seat, let's call Kent Brown first. Could you give us your name and address?
Yeah, my name's Kent Brown. I'm from 400 Castle Rock Road. I'm the president of the Windsor District over the Icon Cinema is located in. I'm also the minister at Northwest Church of Christ, which is just down the street. I want to speak in favor of this variance. Icon Cinema has moved in over the last year, and during that year, they've invested a lot of money. The ownership has moved into the area. They've purchased the building. They've made interior and exterior improvements to the facility. They've upgraded the seating, the experience, all of that. They've made great partnerships with Oklahoma City Police to try and upgrade the security of the parking lot, which was a major issue in the past. They've partnered with neighborhood associations and their leaders to talk about getting people in the theater, but also how to connect with the community. They're working with local faith groups and businesses. They've invested in the community and the neighborhoods in every way that they really could have. The real obstacle that remains for Icon Cinema is that even though they're at the major kind of intersection of 23rd and Meridian, they are invisible from either streetscape. And so this sign really would allow them to have visibility so that more people can know they're there. They've already provided dozens of jobs and done all kinds of things with local community leaders. And I would just love to see this business succeed. And if this sign can help them do it, I'm completely in favor of it. I think it upgrades the district and the neighborhoods and gives lots of opportunity, not just to watch movies, but to be a better part of town. So I'm strongly in favor of this and encourage you to approve this variance.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
And the next one, Samson Swell.
Hello, thank you for your time. I'm the owner of Icon Cinema. I came here because I felt like I wanted to build an affordable luxury
Get your
cinema.
name and address first.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Please.
Samson Snell, 4623 Northwest 23rd Street.
Thank you.
And I am the owner of the new Icon Cinemas OKC Windsor. I'm locally owned, and I wanted to bring something beautiful to the community as a movie theater that was luxurious but affordable pricing. And I trust you, if I did not feel like this sign was vital for the success, I do not want to spend any more money, but I know I need it. So I hope you request that you accept, and I'd love to see you at the show. Thank you for your time.
Questions, comments? Okay, that's all I've got. Is there anybody else wanting to speak on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Real quick, I just want to say, I don't know if it's been said before, but anytime people do call in and request whether or not being in support of something actually makes a difference, I do appreciate the gentleman that spoke in support of this item number. So definitely helped me in my decision as I move forward. But Motion to approve case number 15327 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for the variance requested in the application.
Second.
Second, there we go. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 6, case number 15352, a request of Mark Zitzow on behalf of JAT Realty for a variance to side yard setback regulations in O1 Office District located at 2004 North Martin Luther King Avenue.
Good afternoon, Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates on behalf of the applicant. This is a bit of a, I would say, unfortunate situation. Our client, who's a nurse practitioner, currently operating at the MetroTech facility to provide health services to a much-needed part of town, took advice to move forward with a straight O1 zoning application for an existing single-family home. He went in for building permit, and he got hung up on the side yard setback, because in O1, you're required a 15-foot side yard setback, and it was an existing single-family home that had about a 5-foot side yard, which met the residential base zoning district. So rather than going through an SPUD process, which would have cleared this up all at the same time, we are now forced to file a variance. So I think Commissioner Noble was at that hearing. Planning Commission and City Council both unanimously approved this use, and I think it was even discussed that it was excited to see health services coming to Northeast Oklahoma City. So with that, we are requesting a variance to the 15-foot side yard setback to allow us to keep the existing 5-foot. So happy to answer any questions, but we would ask for your approval today.
Questions or comments from the board? And I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Is there anybody here who wants to address this application? Okay, guess we're ready for a motion.
I guess just to make sure, when this was approved to rezone from an R1 to an O1, it was discussed as far as the side yard setback, or no?
It was not discussed. I think had it been discussed at that time, they would have told the applicant to go back and file an SPUD application, which would have cleared this up. He went all the way through the process, so now we're at a point where he's ready to start construction, but he can't get his building permit. If we were to go back through the rezoning process, it would cost him more money, but unfortunately, he's under a time constraint where he has to be out of MetroTech, and the variance takes a month, the rezoning takes 4 to 6 months. So it would effectively put him out of business for 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
So we felt that because it's an existing building, we met the statutory requirements for a variance.
Excuse my ignorance, SPU, special
Simplified
use.
planned unit development.
Right. And so on the Planning Commission, we just kind of didn't catch the fact that it was going to change the side yard setback to change this to an office straight zone. And so he got caught in a kind of a catch. And so that's why they're here today. And so I'm in favor of fixing what we didn't fix in Planning Commission.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Anybody want to address this one? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion then.
All right, motion to approve case number 15352 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for the variance requested in the application.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. All right, you're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 15305, a renewal application for a special exception for Fred and Ree Lee to allow home sharing at 4813 North Miller Avenue.
I'm Kevin Mears. I'm representing the owners of the property. 2608 Northwest 69th Street, Oklahoma City. Sorry, go ahead.
Nope.
Oh, I thought you were
Said
going
thank you. Go ahead.
So this is currently permitted. It's been for the last year. They got a 1-year permit to start. I would say by all signs, it's been wildly successful. There's been no issues, complaints, parties, police calls, anything like that. They brought us on about 2 months ago to help them manage the property. They felt like it was a little bit much for them. So again, I've been here a few times, but we have a full staff. We've got full-time maintenance staff. We have security. I mean, we've got constant eyes on the property. We've got quiet hours. But we're very strict in our rules and our penalties for all our properties, and this one would be no exception. So I don't intend to change anything from the original submission. I just ask for a renewal of the existing permit or approval.
Okay. Anything from the board?
And one thing, if I may speak, given that the first year test was successful, I would appreciate if I could have a 2 or 3 year renewal.
In the application, it says maximum, which maximum on this would be 10-year, but
I know you guys don't give us 10 years. I mean, I'll take 10 years if you want to give me 10 years, but.
Well, as
we
we've had
haven't
some
had a lot of
contested
renewals.
ones.
Right.
So, but we've not dealt with a ton of renewals. I think that the few that we have granted, as long as things have looked good and we've
great.
not had any complaints, we want to be mindful still of the neighbors and consider them. But in these situations, I think that we have allotted a multi-year application approval. So I'm pretty certain you'll get that. I mean, my recommendation, I think that we've done in the past is 3 years.
That's fine.
And so,
Anything
good?
else?
Okay.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one either. Does anybody want to speak? Okay. On this application?
Another one, but it's the same pace. It's
Where-
sharing. Why do they do sharing so many?
We're on case 15305, item 7. Is that the one you want to speak on? No. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's cleared up. Okay. I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, motion to approve case number 15305 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to, I guess, the modification that it shall be approved, or at least for a period of 3 years rather than 10. I will learn to talk, I promise.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. There we go. You're approved.
Thank you so much.
Item number 8 has been continued. Item number 9, case number 15160, for a special exception of Benjamin Sherman, on behalf of Pathway Strategies for home sharing at 5217 Foster Drive.
Benjamin? Do we have anybody here on this item? Let's just continue it.
Motion to continue, I guess. What's the next date that they would have available if we continue this matter?
Is that April 20th?
We do that, or May 4th?
April?
Okay. Motion to continue case number 15160 to April 20th.
Got a motion, we got a second.
Second.
Cast your votes.
Mr. Noble, what say you?
All right, it's continued.
Item number 10, case number 15292, application of Scarlett Lakeo for home sharing at 721 Northwest 35th.
Hi, my name is Scarlett Lakao, and the property is 515 Northwest 13, and this application is for the property 721 Northwest 35th.
questions or comments from the board?
Did anybody sign up to speak on this one?
I don't have anybody signed up to speak.
There was a written protest.
Yeah, I've got that in the packet, but I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Is there anybody here who wants to speak on this application? Yes, ma'am. On this one? Yes, sir. Would you come up to the microphone? Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Madeline Benham. I live at 2112 Northwest 19th, and I wasn't even planning to speak about that one. I apologize, I didn't sign anything. I just happened to notice the name Omega Investments. That's the name of the company that owned the homeless camp that we cleaned up 2 years ago in our neighborhood. It featured many holes in the ground that were being used as toilets, and it took our neighborhood months to get any action on that. So
Which property is that, ma'am?
it's on, it's between 23 and 22
Yes, I know
on
exactly.
Barnes.
Yes.
It was that one that was behind the.
Is that the 2124 Northwest 20th? Is that the one? Oh, yes.
It was terrible.
Oh, absolutely. When
And we
bought-
all showed up with, it took us almost a day. And we had, the thing
We
is.
have so many homeless in that one, and I called the
Yes.
police several times while waiting outside when there's a guy sleeping inside, and the police never show up. How can I come
Oh, they
inside?
don't so
Oh,
much anymore.
yes.
But what finally worked was putting up a fence, but I'll tell you this, it made Omega Investments have a bad name in our neighborhood. Now, if people are
see-
having coffee and someone says Omega Investments, everyone says, oh, let me tell you about
Do
Omega.
you see that we have already fixed it up?
I do see that, but we had to
Yes.
we had to
It
work
took
hard
us-
to make that happen.
Oh,
We-
no, not really, ma'am. I have been waiting for the permit.
I
for
sent
that
you a
one.
registered
One
letter.
at a time.
Okay,
Yes,
excuse me.
I sent applications for building permit for that one for months until I can get approved. Without the applications of building permit, we cannot touch anything of the house. And you know that, and we cannot touch anything. But this is a different topic, though. Is that something related to this thing?
It's the same company. I don't have faith in Omega Investments. I personally wrote registered
I
letters
can take you to
your
the tour
office.
to the property if you like,
One at a
ma'am.
time. Your turn.
Address us and not each other, okay?
Oh,
So
okay.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
you know, there's a fence up there now, and I don't think we have that problem in my neighborhood anymore, but it doesn't build confidence. That's all.
Okay. Your
People
turn.
will ask me about it when I get home. Excuse me.
Okay.
Oh, I would love to take the whole open house tour for the neighborhood. If you would, this is my cell phone number, 405-200-9303. Do you want us to write down? And I would love to take the tour for whoever wants to see the property at this state moment. Actually, I'm gonna be riding down to that property after this meeting because I have to drop off new light fixtures and plumbing fixtures after the house has been redone. You're welcome to, I would love you to go with me if you want to, and I would love you to take photos and send to the whole neighbors.
Okay. Is there anybody else want to speak on this one? Does the board have any questions or comments?
do you have a copy of the protest that was written?
I don't.
Okay. And staff can get that for you, but I would appreciate that you contacted those owners just to make sure that they feel comfortable with what's happening in the neighborhood there. And this is a 3-bedroom home
Yes.
with how many baths?
This is a 3-bedroom home with 2 baths.
And you have double beds in all the rooms because you have 6 guests that you're asking for.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you're asking for 6 guests, so those are double beds in all 3 bedrooms?
Yes, double bed in the 3 bedrooms, yes. It's like a king size in the master and a queen size in the other 2.
You have a bunch of properties that are listed on there. As far as quiet hours, what are your hours for?
The quiet hour is from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
On the application, you're asking for 2 years, but seeing this is the first time this property's come up, I feel comfortable with just giving a 1-year exemption.
Yes. I appreciate that.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, motion to approve case number 15292 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, with the modification that quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., and this shall be for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 15308, application for a special exception of Britton Mitchell of High Impact Living LLC to allow home sharing at 1209 Northwest 11th Street.
Hello, Britton Mitchell. My address is 13313 Watson Drive on behalf of High Impact Living LLC.
Hi, my name is Dylan Walker. My address is 13317 Watson Drive.
And so we're asking for a 1-year home sharing exemption for this house. This is a newly renovated home. We've had long-term tenants here switching it over to short-term. It's a 3-bed, 2.5-bath, upstairs, downstairs. If you look to the left, those stairs going up, that's actually not an entrance. We have that door locked at all times, so the only way into the house is through the front porch. We have a queen bed downstairs, sleeps 2. Pull-out sofa, that's a queen upstairs that sleeps 2, and a bunk bed. The full bed sleeps 2, and the twin sleeps 1, for a total of 7 guests. 2 vehicles maximum for everybody's stay. You can see in the parking lot or the driveway, you can single file for 2 vehicles. And our quiet times are from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. We don't allow any parties or large gatherings here as well.
Questions from the board?
Your application is asking for 6 guests. I don't know if you even know that.
6 guests?
Yeah, and so this is not an upstairs, downstairs.
It's not 2 units, it's 1 full unit.
Okay.
It was originally, but renovated it for just 1 home now. And that's why we blocked off that entrance upstairs going up to the left of the house.
So is the upstairs being counted as 1 room then?
Yeah, there's 1 bedroom upstairs. Actually, the living room's upstairs, kind of a weird situation. Living room's upstairs, there's a full bathroom up there and 1 bedroom. And then downstairs, when you walk in, you walk into the kitchen. And if you take a right and go down the hall, you're in the master bedroom.
Okay.
Or there's a full bath and then a half bath under the stairs to go upstairs.
How big is the quote-unquote bedroom upstairs then?
Oh, it's 300 square feet.
And that's where you have 2 beds?
It's
Is
just
it
a bunk bed, just a
Okay.
bunk bed. yeah.
Bunk bed and what else? Like a king or a double?
Bunk bed, so the bunk bed is a full size.
Okay.
And then a twin on the top. And then in the living room, there's a couch that you pull out, and it's a queen size sofa.
You want to keep the application at 6 or 7?
I'd like 7 if you would approve. If not, if it's easier, we can keep it at 6.
Knowing that it's 2 rooms, I would feel more comfortable at 6, keeping it at 6.
I'm fine with that.
Anything else from the board? I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anybody want to speak on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to approve case number 15308 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception with no modifications.
Did you say 1 year?
It has 1 year on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we have item number 12 through 21 is the same applicant, Eva Mashiva, on Alley Bicycle LLC to allow home share in the DBD located at 420 Northwest 8th Street. We have apartments 1 through 5 and apartment 1115. But we do have to vote on each one individually.
All right.
Hello, my name is Sean Lawrence, on behalf of 420 Northwest 8th Street. We purchased the property about 10 months ago, did a complete rehab of the property. It consists of 21 bedroom apartments. All of them have their own bathroom, and we've recently upgraded the entire property. We spent multi-millions trying to put all new electrical, all new plumbing, all new exterior, all new parking, replaced a lot of the siding, and just our intent is to operate as a first-class apartment and short-term living facility, with our target market being the hospital and the adjacent law school.
Questions, comments from the board?
Is anyone here to speak?
I don't have anybody signed up on these applications. Does anybody want to speak? Starting with 15317, item 12.
So you have 21 bedroom apartments,
Correct.
and you chose half of them are going to be short-term, half of them long-term?
Correct.
Are any leased right now?
No,
So,
we're waiting for this.
okay. And no long-term leases?
Not yet. We're in the final processes. After this afternoon, I'm going to go work on the sign, and we're just kind of just finishing up all the exterior. All the interior has been complete, but we're just the final touches on the exterior.
Okay. How many total parking spots are there?
We have 20.
20, okay. So for
Actually, we have 22. I apologize.
22, but for the short term?
We've allocated 10.
10. So you'd limit it to one vehicle per rental?
Correct. Yep. Just the size of the units, they're not conducive for more than 2 people per unit.
I know we've brought this up before, it wasn't on this application, but it almost feels like when you have that many that it turns into a hotel situation. So I guess not having the experience with the planning commission, at what point is that a consideration?
Yeah, we'll hear from staff first.
Yeah.
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. This is in our downtown area in the DBD where lodging is an approved use.
Because I know there is another one that was on planning commission that was still pending to come to us. So that was going to be a hotel, or basically run like a hotel. And so just want clarification that this does work in this location to be short-term long-term lease.
I'm not quite sure of the question, but multifamily and hotels are both permitted uses in their existing zoning, if that helps in your decision-making process. And then because it's in a design district, any improvements to the exterior, they have to go through the design district for that.
Ms. Alston, just want to make sure and be mindful of our hotels subject to additional restrictions and laws that maybe a short-term rental would kind of circumvent those rules. Are there ordinances and laws that are governing the hotel aspect in that industry that would not govern this situation?
Rita?
I'm not aware of anything like that. I know that there is a hotel motel tax that is paid for each rental, for each nightly. And I am not certain how it is that this part is paid. But the application before us, of course, is not for that.
Right, okay.
But they don't circumvent the motel hotel tax in the home sharing. I believe that through Airbnb or whatever, they are taxed,
Correct.
just like a hotel.
Yes.
I was told that anyway, so that's what I'm believing. Because that was a question that I had too, and I asked. And so that's what they said they were taxed,
Okay.
just like a hotel.
Okay. Appreciate y'all's patience. So we're kind of working through this process because I don't think that we've ever had, at least for me, this specific situation pop up. So I want to get some clarification there. I've got no other questions. So, well, hold on, I do. Is it 2 people per room then for each apartment?
Yes.
Okay.
And also in the application, you're asking for a 15-year exemption, which 10 is the maximum. And this being the first time this property's come up, you've heard us before, but so that's, I'd be willing to give the 1 year for this and just see how it goes.
This question is for staff, but the application shows numbers of rooms being offered 10, but there's 10 separate cases or applications, right? So do we need to modify that to be 1 per, or how does that work?
It's 1 per case number.
Okay,
So even though they give you a narrative about the entire plan,
okay,
each case has to be voted on separately.
okay,
Yeah, this one says apartment 1,
okay,
next one's apartment 2.
Yeah.
okay.
It's just the application says rooms being offered 10.
Right.
We'll just modify that to 1. Number of guests, we'll say 2. Are there quiet hours listed in the application?
I don't see it.
I don't
Do not see any. Have you all talked about quiet hours for these apartments?
The quiet hours?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, is it listed on the?
Yeah, we list quiet hours in general from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. But since this is more like a commercial area, probably the hours will be from 10:30 or 11 p.m. if you allow that, up to 9 a.m.
Okay. How about we just say 10 to 9?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody else have questions or comments? And again, I don't have anybody signed up to speak on these.
On the application, under the planning department review, we did write that there is 1 room being offered per apartment with a maximum of 2 guests per room and 1 parking space on the west side of the property.
Okay. Motion, I
Ready
guess?
for a motion?
All right, motion to approve case number 15317 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception. This is for apartment number 1, with the only modification being that we are adding quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m.
For 1 year.
For 1 year, sorry.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Ditto 9 times.
Okay, you're approved.
Item 13 is case number 15318 for 420 Northwest 8, Apartment 2.
I'll assume same announcement. Same questions, comments?
Nope.
Quiet hours, 10 p.m. to 9, okay, all right. And I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anybody want to address this application? Okay, Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve case number 15318 for the purpose that it meets statutory requirements for a special exception with a modification of quiet hours, quiet time being from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 14 is case 15319 for 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment.
Same announcement, right? Same questions and comments?
Ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion?
All right, motion to approve case number 15319 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception with the modification that quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second, cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 15, case number 15320 for 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 4.
All right. Same announcement, same questions?
Same motion. Motion to approve case number 15320 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception with a modification that quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second, cast your votes. Okay, you're approved.
Item 16, case number 15321 for 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 5.
Okay, same thing. I still don't have anybody signed up to speak. Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve case number 15321 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to the modification of quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second, cast your votes. Okay, you're approved.
Item 17, case number 15322, 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 11.
Same announcements. No one signed up. Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve case number 15322 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception with the modification of quiet hours being from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion is second, so cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 18, case number 15323, address 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 12.
And same again. I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one.
All right. Motion to approve case number 15323 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception with the modification of quiet hours being from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 19, case number 1532, address 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 13.
Same announcements. Same motion.
Motion to approve case number 15324 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, subject to the modification of quiet hours being from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. And you're approved.
Item number 20, case number 15325, address
Cindy, we didn't hear that last part.
Item number 20, case number 15325 for the address 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 14.
And same announcements, I guess. same motion.
Motion to approve case number 15325 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for special exceptions with the modification of quiet hours being from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 21, case number 15326, address 420 Northwest 8th Street, apartment 15.
Any same announcements, except I have a comment. Now that we're at the end, ordinarily I would not be in favor of turning an apartment complex into a hotel, but I think your location is unique enough that it sets this apart. So that's why I've been okay on this one, because of your location. Okay, now I'm done.
I do have one comment. Is there a way we can move all these into a consent docket at some point? Of some sort?
Not,
Probably not. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. All right.
not today, yet.
Motion to approve case number 15326 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for special exceptions with the modification that quiet hours shall be from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. And you're approved.
One more.
Thank you.
That's it. All right.
Item number 22, case number 15331, an application for a special exception of Alyssa Dyer on behalf of Taylor Volk for home sharing at 1839 Northwest 16th Street.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Dyer, address 1316 South Youngs Boulevard. We're here seeking special exception for a few of these. First one on the docket is 1839 Northwest 16th Street. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Your application shows quiet hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I just want to point that out. I'll make a motion to reverse that, right?
Yes.
From 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Definitely.
Okay.
This property's a duplex or?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It is it's set up as a duplex, I guess. When you walk in, it's that front door that's right there, the white one. When you walk in there, there's a door to the right. So currently, it's all one big unit. He's planning on framing that in to make it two. But there's bathrooms and kitchens upstairs, laundry upstairs and downstairs. Kind of unique property.
Anything else from the board? I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this application. Does anybody want to address this one?
And you are the property manager for this, right?
Yeah, the owner of the property is here if you guys have any questions.
Okay. We're ready for a motion.
Motion to approve case number 15331 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for special exceptions with the modification that quiet hours will be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Go ahead and cast your votes. You're approved.
If we want to switch to item number 26, it's the property within this one at 1837 Northwest 16th Street. Got them out of order, but it's case number 15330.
That seems logical.
On the screen, it shows 15332.
Yeah,
That's
the
correct.
next one.
But we just heard
That's the other half
The other half of
of hers.
this one
Yeah.
building. Ah, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
I'm okay with doing number 26 next. Let's call that one.
Case 15330 for Alyssa Dyer for home sharing, 1837 Northwest 16th Street.
Yeah. I assume same announcements.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're on number 26, case 15330. Questions, comments from the board?
Ready?
I don't have anybody signed up on this one.
Okay. Case number I move to approve case number 15330 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for special exceptions with the modification that quiet hours shall be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Go ahead and cast your votes. Okay, that one's approved.
Okay, back to item 23, case number 15332, application of special exception for Alyssa Dyer on behalf of Taylor Volk at 1729 Northwest 22nd Street.
So this one's very similar to the other one. It's a duplex, so 1 unit upstairs, 1 unit downstairs. The driveway is, you can see in that top photo. So it's a corner lot driveways. There's one on the front side of the property, one is kind of on the side. Minimize street parking, seeking approval to turn these into short-term rentals. We would start with the upstairs unit first. Same thing on this one, quiet hours, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Questions from the board?
Nope.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one either, so I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to approve case number 15332 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for a special exception with the modification the quiet hours shall be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay, you're approved.
Item number 24, case number 15333, application for special exception of Alyssa Dyer on behalf of Taylor Volk at 1731 Northwest.
So this one is a single family residence seeking to operate it as a short-term rental. I did see on this one we had one neighbor who wrote in, happy to address those concerns, or if there's anything I can't answer, the owner's here as well and can help.
Anything from the board? I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Do we have anything from questions, comments from the board?
This is the same property as the one before?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I jumped ahead. No.
So
Everything I just said about single-family residence
Right.
is for 2106.
this is the duplex.
Yep, this is the other
Second
side of
half
the same
of it.
duplex. Sorry about that, guys.
Guess we're ready for a motion.
You good? Okay. Motion to approve case number 15333 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for special exceptions with the modification that quiet hours shall be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ready to vote? Okay, you're approved.
Item number 25, case number 15328, application for special exception of Alyssa Dyer on behalf of Taylor Volk for home sharing at 2106 Northwest 18th Street.
Okay, so now everything I just said about
Go
single-family
ahead.
residence. Okay.
Okay. Anything from the board?
No, I think there's a protest, so.
All right. Okay, give us your name and address and
First of all, exactly what are they intending to do with getting an exemption for, make a rental house out of it? Is that what they want?
give us your name and address so we've got it in the record, please.
2109 is my address, Northwest 18th,
What's your name?
and the case is 2106.
Right, what's your name?
My name is James Burke.
Okay. Are you protesting or supporting?
I'm against it
Okay, tell us why.
because it's a residential area that, for single-family homes. Why the motive to change it? We already have a parking problem from the quadruplex next door to me that was made without permission by the same person that owns this property and who doesn't live there in either place. Though there's continuous traffic already, and with more, and who knows what kind of people they'll go rent it to. It's going to be a homeless shelter or what?
Well, it's zoned residential, and the application is for short-term rental, home sharing.
Who monitors that?
Oklahoma City Code Enforcement.
Yeah.
So I have to keep track along how many people are violating the law if they stay over a year?
I mean, as a resident or neighbor, I'm not exactly sure where your property is compared to this property, but yes, I mean, we would encourage the surrounding property owners to help. But again, code enforcement with the city of Oklahoma City is who enforces.
You can call Action Center if there's a problem.
I'm sorry?
Action Center if there's a problem. I think you can do that online too. Okay. Okay.
Well,
As to your email, though, you noted that he was changing the zoning. He's not changing the zoning of the property.
well,
Even if you own a home, you can lease it out to a tenant for a year, let's say. That's not changing. That's pretty normal. They're having to get an exception because he's wanting to rent it out or lease it out for less than 30 days. And that's why they're here. They have to make that application here to get that so that they can operate in that fashion.
why doesn't it just sell it to a single family like it's supposed to?
That, I don't think it's within our purview
Yeah, that's-
to answer the intentions of any homeowner.
Right. That's not a part of this application.
Adding 100% of not getting them approved. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm more than happy to give my phone number if we do have all guests park. This driveway is very long, so part of our guest requirements are just that they park single file in the driveway, so they know that when they book. I'm more than happy to enforce that, give my phone number to neighbors if that is an issue.
Okay. And I think somebody raised their hand in the back. You want to address this application? Come on out.
My
Give us
name's-
your name and address again for the record,
Sure.
please.
Madeline Benham, 2112 Northwest 19th.
Okay.
That means I live 1 block away from this proposed Airbnb at 2106 Northwest 18th. But I'm going to mention something else. I don't know if I can mention this, but I share a back fence with 2115 Northwest 18th, also owned by the same person, Taylor Volk. When he bought it in 2018, I went over and met him, invited him to my home, made some coffee. I was really excited that someone had bought this house. But I'm not so excited now because there are 4 mailboxes there. There are 4 different families living in what used to be one home. And that is what he's talking about. He's talking about 2115. I'm talking about 2115. The problem is we're not here to discuss 2115, and I understand that. But I never received any notice that that was going to be made into a multi-unit dwelling. And I wonder why no one did. I wonder why no one in the neighborhood heard about that. And I can tell you that he's right about the traffic problems from that. And he's right about the noise and the smoke. They all seem to be smokers, and they all want to drink and smoke in the backyard. Taylor even turned the garage into an apartment. It is less than 5 feet from my back fence. It's no longer possible for me to enjoy my backyard. The kinds of people that he rents to, it isn't that they're different from us in any way that you could see. It's that they're very rude. Well, you know, you can't control the rudeness of your tenants, but it does kind of make me wonder about putting even more vehicles and more human beings in a place owned by Taylor Volk. I don't have confidence in the way that he does business. There are complaints from many of my neighbors. They're all texting me right now. Oh, we're sorry we couldn't make it. We're watching online. I sure hope Taylor doesn't pull another one on the neighborhood. You know, they should have been here. And I understand that none of you can do anything about 2115 now. Whatever happened there, it's over. But I would really like for you to please not approve this one. Taylor Volk is doing this all over town. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the other thing, which really isn't your problem either. I understand that, and that is this. Every time we take one of these houses off the sales market or off the rental market, we exacerbate the problem of the shortage of housing, affordable housing especially, in our city. We just approved turning 15 apartments into Airbnbs. I checked online while I was sitting there. Those apartments were for rent. They were for rent on a month-to-month basis by people who live here and work here. But now they're not. Now they will be available to people from other cities, other states, other countries who want to rent them for 1 or 2 nights. Those people don't have the same degree of investment in the neighborhood that long-term owners or long-term renters do. I have at one time owned up to 8 properties. I only have a few left. And they're long-term rentals. I rent by the year, sometimes for 2 years at a time. Those people become friends with the other people in the neighborhood. And they're not wealthy people. This is not Austin money. This is not Dallas money that's paying my food bill. It's Oklahoma City people renting Oklahoma City houses. And every time we approve the exceptions so that something can be made into an Airbnb or the like, we take another one of those off the market. And things aren't getting better out there, folks. You've seen it. You've seen how desperate people are for housing. It actually indirectly exacerbates the homelessness problem because everybody kind of gets shifted down. And now people who were just kind of barely hanging on for $350 a month, they're out of it. They're on the streets. The people who were at $750 a month, they're out of it too. Now it's $1150 a month. And now those people are out of it too because it's $150 a night. Who's got that kind of money? People from out of state have that kind of money. That's who. And that's where the money is being made. I just checked the taxes on 2115. It's less than $200 a month the city's bringing in on that place. Why are you guys going for this? And I understand you aren't even the people who voted to allow this. But the money's not there, folks, and the harm is. I'm asking you, please don't approve this exception for 2106 Northwest 18th. Thank you very much.
One other word, if you drive by...
Step up to the
at
microphone
night,
so we can record.
If you drive by 2106 at night, you'll notice it looks like a prison. There are high intensity light bulbs that shine and illuminate the yard and the front porch of the house and my bedrooms.
Okay, does the applicant want to respond to those?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna ask Taylor, the owner of the property. I have not, he bought this a couple years ago. I just started getting involved on the short-term rental side. I do know that there was a lot of issues with the property that he had to take over. He was dealing with break-ins and the such, so that's part of why there is a lot of bright lights on the exterior. We've talked about putting those down just a little bit to a lighter or lower watt bulb, but I'll let him address the greater neighborhood, just because I'm not super versed on all of that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
There's the owner.
If you'll give us your name and address and tell us about your application, address the concerns.
Good afternoon. My name is Taylor Volk. I live at 827 Northwest 17th Street, Oklahoma City. To continue on the lights on the property, I added some high luminous bulbs on the front porch, as well as redid the historic lantern on the neighborhood. This particular neighborhood hasn't had any changes to like the light fixtures on the block. It's actually a very dark block. You almost don't see it as you drive down Penn Avenue. You turn left and it's really dark. I actually haven't heard of any concerns on the light fixtures, but now that it was brought to my attention, I can make some changes. I do know that my light fixtures for the security lights, some of them are on permanently instead of on sensor. So being that the neighbor across the street mentioned the lights, we can make adjustments so that they're only sensors. This particular property, it had, I lived at the property across the street for many years. So that property, I got to know the homeowners, and it was about to be sold back, well, actually auctioned off at sheriff auction when I bought the property. There were a lot of people living at that residence, and there was a lot of high traffic. This particular property, we had people stop by for less than 5 minutes and drive away all day, all night. A lot of noise, a lot of people, just making a lot of ruckus. It was the previous owner's son and just random friends that he rented the house out to. It caused a lot of disturbances in the neighborhood, and that was the prior owner. When I assumed this particular property, it had mice and rodent problems, and it was disturbing the house next door. So we eradicated those problems, and also just other issues, and we made the house look really nice. We did a big renovation to make the neighborhood nice again, and it's something that should be considered. It was actually a very dangerous looking property, and the type of people that were going in and out of the property. This property is night and day now. After the renovations, after we got rid of all the negative traffic on the block, and during our special exemption with the parking situation, we have a really long driveway, and we can make it, very, very clear that the rules would apply to park on the driveway, not on the street, to keep our city streets more clear. And I want this neighborhood to be great. Back in 2018, many of the properties on the block were being renovated, and it was pretty hard on the eyes. But now, after two renovations and a couple houses on the block, I became friends with them when they were doing the renovations. I helped them build their kitchen, helped them build their bathroom. I was a part of this community. I've got to know all the neighbors. A couple that are here, I've had the privilege of getting to know them. But it's still a community. Although doing a special exemption for short-term rental, I could see that being a great thing for our community. One thing being, many of the people that travel to Oklahoma City, yes, to visit, but have a nice place to have a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner at a nice house that they may not otherwise have that privilege to bring their family and celebrate a festivity. Additionally, there's been many contractor laborers from areas of Tinker Air Force Base or building a Love's truck stop, just making our community great. It's been many of the people that I got to know doing short-term rentals in my time. Met many families, and many people just increasing the value of our community. Do you have any questions for me on this application?
I've got a couple of questions. You're saying there's 3 rooms and 8 guests. Can you tell us how you got to the 8 guests?
Yes, there is a king bed in one room in the in the master suite, and then there's 2 queen beds in the other 2 bedrooms, and then there's a pull-out couch, a queen-size pull-out couch.
Okay.
Is where we come to 8.
So it's a 3-bedroom home, living room, and then how many baths are in it?
There are 2 full bathrooms.
Okay. And how many cars can you park in the driveway?
If I were to look at the length of that driveway, it's close to 100 feet. So, I mean, those 2 cars in that picture there, we technically have up to 5, but I mean, comfortably 3, easily, adequate parking.
So the no street parking is definitely, I want to address the concerns of the neighborhood and the neighbors. Just for me personally, I don't think that we have a hard set rule as far as cars to number of bedrooms, but I mean, in this situation, I like the idea of it being 3 vehicles. They have kids, they can stay in the pull-out couch. I think that's how I personally can get on board with 8 guests. If we're going to limit it to 3 vehicles and no street parking on that one.
Any other questions or comments?
I know prior to you maybe even owning it, but there were 17 code complaints at this location, and you've obviously, by the pictures, cleaned it up and made it a better place for the neighborhood, and that's commendable. Also, the fact that you have a property manager is something that is positive for me.
Yes, thank you, sir. There was a lot of junk and debris in the yards when I had taken over the property. It was substantial, and we did do great cleanup. And we have a little more landscaping to do, but it's come a very, very long way. All new windows and doors.
And please take advisement of the protests and those neighbors and their concerns and the lighting concerns.
The lighting concerns as to this 2106, is that, or is it a different home?
No, it's this one.
It's this one here, the high, okay.
Yeah.
There's just the floodlights on the front of the home, and then you can barely see it in this photo. There's a lamp in the middle of the yard. Sorry, I need to move over here. Lamp in the middle of the yard. Those just all have very bright light bulbs. It was originally done in an effort to deter break-ins, foot traffic, people being on site when they're not supposed to. Now we haven't had any of those issues, so it wouldn't be a big deal to do to his point, motion sensor and or lower the brightness on those so that neighbors aren't disturbed.
Yes.
I think that'd help, yeah.
Yes, and it's an original lantern, and the light bulbs are very bright, but we can decrease the lumens on those lanterns to make it more adequate for our neighbors. It makes it very well lit for our neighborhood. We don't have those really tall lanterns in place at our neighborhood, so I thought it was a good, positive thing for our neighbors. I'd like to talk to James about that a lot more, so we can address that now that it's been brought to my attention.
Okay, no other questions?
Anybody else? Okay.
Before I move to approve, we talked about it the last time I was here, is that there's only certain things that are within our purview. If home sharing is a concern of yours, I think that needs to be brought up with your city council person. And that's probably the proper forum for this to be heard and not here at the Board of Adjustment. So, did you have something, Mr. Burke?
Yeah, in regard to parking, nobody pays any attention to what is required. They do what they want. You all know that.
And that's where we rely on you as a neighbor to help. Again, that's all we can do.
I parked across the street one day, and someone put a note on the car and said that they're going to haul my car away.
But we're going to put it in the application that for this application, that they're only going to be allowed to off-street park in the driveway.
And I hope they don't have pets if they rent it out. They already used my yard in the back room.
Nothing else?
All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, motion to approve case number 15328 for the purposes that it meets the statutory requirements for special exceptions with the following modifications. Quiet hours shall be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. There shall not be any street parking. Parking will all be in the driveway. It will be a 3-vehicle limit. This will be for a period of 1 year, and we do ask that you consult with Mr. Burke as far as the lighting issue to help alleviate that.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Mr. Voorhees, what say you?
Yes.
Mr. Noble, what say you?
Aye.
Mr. Sada, what say you?
Aye.
Mr. Uday, what say you?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, item number 26 was approved. We're on to item number 27, case number 15283, application of special exception of Mr. James Hune to allow home sharing in the R1 district at 3905 Northwest.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Hune. This is my brother, Bill Hune, and we own 3905 Northwest 70th Street. And we are applying for a home share license. And I know there's definitely some concerns from some of the neighbors, and we are aware of that. And we just want to make sure that we want to work with our neighbors, and we want to do everything we can to basically not fight with our neighbors, but work with them if there's any issues that we can address, or if there's noise complaints, they can reach out to us directly. So.
Have you seen all the protest letters and emails?
Yes, we have. Okay. Yes, we have read the letters.
There was quite a lot. Should we just go through the protests now?
Let's see if the board has any questions, comments.
I know some of the concerns were, like out-of-state owners, that the house was going to be a party house. But we can assure you that, we live in Oklahoma City. I've been in Oklahoma City for about 10 years now, buying properties, fixing them, renting them out. So I've been, I've been doing a lot in Oklahoma. And for a party house, we definitely do not allow parties. There's no incentives for us to throw parties. It can damage our homes, and we definitely don't want to disturb the neighbors. So, and also, any additional guests, so we have policies and procedures in place for our guests, and they know that if there's any additional guests that's required, or the maximum, if there's additional guests above the maximum number, we do charge them $150 per guest.
Which is like, our way of deterring, people to have parties.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed on the application, you listed maximum number of guests to be accommodated 13.
Yes, sir.
In a
Yes,
three-bedroom?
that's because we have sleeping space available for 13 people. Our initial kind of strategy with going that, we weren't really trying to attract parties, but we were trying to provide a place, for large families to gather and, to be able to be able in one place.
Anything else from the board?
Let's hear from the,
Yeah, I've got quite a few, so
we can
Okay.
address them.
let's do Ben Griffin.
One representative.
Okay. I'm going to guess you're Anton because that's the only lawyer I've got in the packet.
Oh, Mr. Voorhees. Here's my sheet. I may need a few more. I've submitted written materials to the clerk. I brought paper copies. You don't have to look at them, but I'd like to hand those up in case that's helpful to you.
Before you start, could you give us your name and address?
Yes, yes. I go by Tony, but my name is Anton Rupert, and my address is 3917 Northwest 70th. I'd have to count, I think I'm 3 houses down from the subject property. And I'll also tell you, I was trained by Andy Coates, our mayor from a long time ago, and I will be short and to the point. I'm not going to waste your time. He'd lash me if I did. I'm going to demonstrate to you 3 things. Sadly, I don't believe the applicants are being truthful with you. 2, they have been breaking the law and they are continuing to break the law. And 3, they have created an unsafe condition for me and my neighbors. All right, I just want to remind everyone, we were here on March 2nd to hear this same application. Bill, and forgive me, is it pronounced Wynn? I'm going to pronounce it correctly. Correct pronunciation? Wynn, is that?
Wynn.
Wynn,
Yep.
okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Bill Wynn was here. He was not the owner of the property, and the hearing concluded with Mr. Seda moving that we continue it to today, and Mr. Noble seconding, and I believe everybody voted in favor of that. And the specific instructions to Bill Wynn was, you don't own this property, you need to get the owner here, and James is here, and I appreciate that they did that. The other thing that was said to Bill was, between now and then, talk to these neighbors. You've got these complaints, see if there's some way to work it out, all right? And just to save as much time as I can, if you're here from our neighborhood, would you just mind standing up? And I'll ask you to sit back down. And if any of the Winds have contacted you, I'd like you to stand up now. Nobody has been contacted to work this out. The application that Bill Wynn brought was the 13 people in a 3-bedroom house last time. Several of you very politely urged him to reduce that. He refused to do that. He asked for a vote on the 13. And that's when the continuance occurred to allow these discussions. They have not approached anybody to try to work that out. They are here asking for the same 13. Okay, I want to get to truthfulness. I've given you a little booklet. The first was just, the Exhibit 1 is just the ordinances in case we have any discussion about it. I don't really need to go to that. But if you go to 2, the owner of the property in question is James Wynn. And my Exhibit 3 is his Facebook page. And it says, James Wynn, passionate real estate agent, Orange, California, United States. It goes on to say, my real estate experience started back in 2010 when I bought my first investment property in Atlanta, Georgia. Since then, I expanded my real estate business into Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, doing real estate flips and building my rental portfolio. All right, if you go to the second page of that, it gives his current employment experience, licensed real estate agent, JT Real Estate Services, August 2017 to present. Okay? If you go to Exhibit 4, that is the LinkedIn page for that company, JT Real Estate Services. You will see they're located in Pasadena, California. You will see on the second page of that a picture of James Wynn, passionate real estate agent, the same thing he has on his own LinkedIn page. We have checked the California property records to see where Mr. Wynn lives, because he's just told you he lives here. That's also what Bill Wynn told you on March 2nd, that James Wynn lives here. And if he would please, I would like to know if we found the correct record of where he lives. 3513 Blanchette Way, Blanchette Way, Rancho Cordova, California, a 38-year-old man, 15-plus years residence at that location, according to the record. The value of the home, $1.6 million. Income of this James Wynn, $407,000. I believe that's where this gentleman lives. Now, is it grounds for you all to deny him a license because he's from California? No, I'm not suggesting that. In fact, I want to remind everybody in the room that if one of our neighbors wants to rent out one of their spare bedrooms, that's fine. That's permitted. Nobody has to come in for a special exception. The reason being, that's my neighbor and I know him. I see him every day. And one, he's entitled to do it, and two, I don't have to contact somebody in California, or like this nice lady who went before us, having all sorts of problems, not knowing where to go to get to the people who own it because they're out of state and they're invading our state. It becomes very important for that, all right? But what is important is, and it's what my mama taught me, which is nobody starts being untruthful late in life. They're untruthful the whole time. If you find one, you'll find others. And so I'm going to tell you, we have found another. At the hearing last week, not last week, but on March 2nd, one of you asked him if he'd had any complaints. And he said no. All right? And that's when, let me get the name right. Give me just a second. Lyndon. I'm just going to get his last name. I know his first name's Lyndon. I have it written down so I can say it right. I'm sorry. Say it loud for me. Lyndon Breckheisen, who lives in the house immediately east of the subject property, came to testify and said, when that man said he didn't know anything about complaints, I complained to him. We had discussions. All right? So truthfulness matters now because that is what this is about. The only reason we're here is if we have complaints. And to misrepresent the existence of complaints, now this is serious. This is not just where he lives, okay? Two, at that same hearing, one of your number, and I can't remember who it was, so forgive me if I get it wrong, but I think it might have been Mr. Noble or Mr., is it Uday? Is that pronounced? Okay, or Mr. Uday, and forgive me if I get it wrong, but got out the list of complaints that the city had about this address, and it was long. And they pushed him. They said, you're saying you have no complaints. We have all these complaints. These have been forwarded to you. What are you doing? I think you're getting untruthfulness on the merits of the matter, and I think that is fatal by itself. I'm going to go on. Breaking the law. At the prior hearing, March 2, we presented to you evidence that they were already renting out the property, all right? And I'll call one of these people to reinforce that. But what's critical is, in fact, I'll do it right now. Tiffany, could you come up, please? I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, not from me. State your name and your address.
Tiffany Lenhard, 3909 Northwest 70th Street. I live directly west of the neighbor next door.
Next door.
Or, yeah.
Okay. Prior to the March 2 hearing, had they been renting out the houses in your Airbnb?
Yes.
Tell them about it.
Well, so it's been rented out multiple times, and then every weekend since.
I want to start before March 2.
Okay.
Before March 2. Was there an event with horse trailers?
Yes. So basically, early February, even before we got the notice, before we knew anything about them wanting a home share, we had seen multiple different cars, different things happening. And one of the biggest events was early February, where there were cattle trucks that came in the neighborhood. There's a discrepancy whether it was cattle trucks or horse trailers. Carol actually saw the little ears in the car, and then the urine and the hay coming out of the huge trucks. And the trucks were so big that they parked in front of my entire property. I could see it out my window, and there were bright flashing red lights, and so I thought they were ambulances at first, or fire trucks. Nothing's that big with red flashing lights. And so it was just, there's been multiple experiences, and I think that that's what you're trying to ask.
Yeah, were the horse trailers or cattle trailers parked?
Yes,
Where
so
were they parked?
they were parked along the entire front of my property. It was late at night, so I didn't want to go outside, but I know Carol went outside, and so they probably parked along. They just took up a lot of room. There were multiple ones of them.
Don't sit down. Carol, could you please come up and add anything that needs to be added? Wait till you get up here, please, and give them your name. She doesn't have a paper. Oh, she does have it. Tell her your name and where you live.
Carol Fletcher, 3829 Northwest 70th. There's one house between mine and the B&B. And it was a little after 9 o'clock, and I saw the lights flashing through my blinds. And usually that's a big ambulance or fire truck. And I went outside, and my neighbor on the other side was just coming home, and I said, "Hey, Daniel, can you see what's going on?" And he said, "I'll walk with you." And we walked, and there were the two big trailers, and one had pulled partway into the driveway, and the other one went down and turned around and came back and parked in front of Tiffany's. And it was just very disconcerting. I could see the cattle, their ears, like that's all I could see.
Can you help with whether a mess was left? I don't know. Just
Oh,
tell us.
yeah. Then the next morning, I always would leave to get my granddog about 7:20, and I come home with her about 7:25, whatever, and I noticed, and I also walk, and it was still there that afternoon when I walked. Hay and urine had drained out of the trailer onto the driveway and into the street. What else?
That's all. Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Fletcher.
Thank you.
You stay here.
You want me
No,
to?
no, you,
her.
sorry, Tiffany, you stay here. All right. That's before the March 2 hearing. At the March 2 hearing, there can be no doubt in these applicants' minds that it's against the law for them to operate at that time, as they do not have a special permit. I'm going to ask Tiffany to take you through my Exhibit 5, which are photographs that she has taken or collected.
So basically, every single weekend since the hearing, when you told them not to rent, that they were not supposed to have renters, they have had different cars every single weekend. And so I specifically have the day after the hearing, the day after the hearing, there was actually a trespassing event onto a neighbor's property, and she was just immediately shooken up, like.
We'll have her address that.
Okay,
That's
so
just fine, but please just tell, what's the date of the very first picture you have?
March 3rd.
The day after the hearing, when they knew they didn't have a permit or permission to operate this home share.
Mr. Rupert, please speak directly into the microphone so it gets recorded.
I'm so sorry, yeah. I just want to emphasize, this first picture is March 3rd, the day after the hearing, when they knew clearly that they did not have permission to operate an Airbnb without a license. And now, please quickly go through the photographs so that they can get an idea of what's happening.
So the first page is the first weekend after the first hearing. The second page is the following weekend, when a group of girls were outside getting their party bags ready for whatever event they were having.
And what is that date on that photograph?
March 11th. And then the next photo is that very same weekend. This is actually on a Monday. Basically, I woke up and there were beer cans, March 13th. So there were beer cans in front of my property. That's how far their party extended. The following page is March 13th, just to show that there's a pack of beer outside of their property. And then the next page is a
When
zoom.
you say pack of beer, yeah, let's go to the next picture.
There's a Zoom Up pack of beer.
I don't want you to estimate the size, but it's not a six-pack. Everybody can see that.
And then the following page, page 6, is also March 13th. This is just an hour after I picked up the beer, a trespasser. So I've got a picture of immediately after that happened.
The beer cans, right?
Sorry, yes, the beer cans. The next page is still March 13th when more cars join them. The next page, page 8, is March 17th. So this is the weekend after, completely different cars. Later at night, cars just coming in and joining, another car parking on the side of the road, even though they have parking spaces, just too many cars coming. And then if you look at the last page, last weekend in March, also more cars, different cars, March 24th.
Okay. I think that's all. Thank you, Tiffany.
Just in black and white. This one, not this one. But I
They were
think the
behaving
same
with
picture
impunity
was-
after the hearing. Now, I want to shift to a different subject and ask Ashley Stewart to come up, please. Their application says they have no other Airbnbs or home shares. I should call it home shares. Please state your name and your address.
My name's Ashley, and my address is 7012 Lake Point Drive.
What do you know about another property they have?
Yeah, so it was made aware to me, I don't remember how, but they have a property on 107th, which was confirmed by my friend who lives along that street.
I believe for the
And-
excuse me,
oh,
I
I'm
believe,
sorry.
I believe for the record, the address is 7405 Northwest 107. Thank you, 7429 Northwest 107. Go ahead.
I think someone might have emailed this in, but my understanding from my friend who lives on that street was that that's not permitted by their association. And he said he called his association, they had intent to report that house, and I believe it is now off Airbnb. But can I tell them about?
No, just later.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah. It was honestly, so when we were here last time, right, at the end, Bill was like, as soon as we knew you needed a license, we took down the listing and we stopped with intention that he was going to follow the rules.
on
But
107.
on our house.
Okay.
And so, but here's another house that they're operating without a license. So it kind of shows is there really a care to being honest or following the rules? Or is it just that they got caught on the one at our neighborhood? And so here they say that, and then there's another house they have that they are doing home shares, or were since August of last year, according to that Airbnb. And you'll see in your emails.
And that other one is the 107th Street?
Yeah,
Please
107th Street. And you'll see from the photos from the email, I believe, from Susan, that if you reference our photos from the first time we were here, it is the same host. It is Bill on both houses. So there's your proof on that. It is both of their properties.
We do have a pending application for the other home, just.
And I believe you've been cited for it. Am I correct about that? Have you been cited for that other house?
Cited for the other house?
Yes, for a violation, a code violation.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
somebody did,
Thank you.
call in, but yes, we do have a pending application.
All right, I'm going to shift. Yeah, I'm going to shift now to my last point, which is whether or not it's unsafe. Ashley, just stay with me. I know you guys have this memorized better than I do, but in the municipal code, at section 594250.1 E1, which I have as part of my Exhibit 1, it says that the proposed use shall not adversely affect the use of neighboring properties in accordance with the applicable zoning district regulations. And I think everybody knows these are zoned single-family homes. Sorry, I lost my place. I want to come now to what happened on the night of March 3rd, is that right?
I would have to look at my messages.
Okay.
But, oh yeah, this is the day after.
Yes, come on up, please. on back to the day after the hearing, just tell the ladies and gentlemen what happened on the evening of March the 3rd.
So
I got to interrupt you, I need to clarify where her house is. So it's easier if I just hold my hands up. Oh, if we can get the map. Yes, thank you.
Just south.
So if you see, the subject property is there. Lyndon, who testified last week, was on the east side, and Tiffany, who testified just now, is on the west side. But if you come directly south, that's the one right there. Is that your house, ma'am?
That's my house.
Now, repeat what your address is, if you don't mind.
My address is 7012 Lake Point Drive.
And the reason I wanted her to do that is she's not going to have a 70th Street address because she is directly across the street but facing on a T-shaped street, all right? Now tell them what happened the evening of March the 3rd.
So I emailed this in that evening, but basically I was leaving my house to head somewhere as a car came down the street. And as I got in my car, this car first blocked me into my driveway, even though they saw me get into my car. I tried to wait it out because I'm not about to approach a bunch of men in a car blocking me into my driveway until they continued to pull around my lot and unpile and approach my front door. And so I jumped out of my car and I ran up to them and was like, "Hi, can I help you?" And they were like, "We're staying here tonight." So not even thinking or putting two and two together about the house next door, since the day prior Bill said they unlisted it and wouldn't be renting it, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And so there's just like this group of guys who continue to walk to my front door while only one of them stops to talk to me. And he argues with me about staying at my house, and I have to tell him, "This is my house, you cannot stay here." And after an argument, he goes, "Well, isn't this Lake Point?" And I was like, "Yeah, like that's my address, but," and then he said, "Well, Bill said we could stay here." And then that's when it clicked with me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're looking for this house over here." But that's after the fact they scared the crap out of me and argued with me in my lawn, as even some ignored me and continued to walk to my front door looking for a lockbox, I would assume. But anyways, it shook me up just because, like, I get that I'm an adult, but, like, I'm still uncomfortable to be arguing with a group of men in my lawn. And then so I flustered, went to Tiffany's house so that Tiffany could like walk me through how to report on the action line. At first I was really angry and scared and was like, I feel this is very deliberate. But even if it isn't deliberate, it's most definitely like a huge sign of negligence and managing, like, how do you mistake coming to an entirely different person's house and having the audacity to argue with them?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I just want to help clarify, our big neighborhood is Edgewater, but the smaller neighborhood in it is Lake Point, all right? And her address is 7012 Lake Point. So someone was sent to Lake Point to get the house without even the care to say, its address is on 70th Street. It's 3905, and they're marked. They're marked to find them. Okay, that's one. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I would like to get Tiffany Leonard back up, please. She's already testified, and she lives just west of the subject house next door. Tell them what happened and your dates and so forth.
For the trespassing?
Yes.
So March 13th, I woke up in the morning and I was picking the beer cans off from in front of my property, and shortly after that I had a friend say that they were going to come over, and so I unlocked the door because they were going to be over any minute, and I was in the living room and in walks one of the Airbnb. They said that they were with the Airbnb. She walked into my home and I was there, and I was like, I was just shocked and asked her what she was doing. And she said, "Oh, I thought this was the Airbnb." And I just was shaken up. I told her, like, my house is not an Airbnb. And she left, and I called the police. And do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. I called the police, and then I talked with the police for at least 10 minutes. Basically, I asked if they could come out and ensure my safety and go talk with this lady, find out what happened. Why did she come to my house? What happened? She said she thought it was an Airbnb and the guys invited her over or something like that. I was really shook up. Like, I wanted to find, like, hopefully they're not inviting other people over my house. Did someone get, like, what happened? And so when I was speaking with 911, they said that they could not send anybody over to the Airbnb. They could come over to my house and talk to me, but that they couldn't go over there. And I was like, even though this person walked into my house, trespassing is criminal. You can't just walk into someone's house. And they said that because it was an Airbnb, I needed to reach out to code enforcement. So I reached out to code enforcement and I reached out to the Action Center, but no one got back to me until the next day. And when code enforcement finally got back to me, they said that's the way it works. It can take 2 to 3 days for them to respond. And so they got back to me the next day and they said that there was nothing that they could do, that trespassing is a 911 issue, and that it's not considered just cause for them to go over to the house, and that since the listing is not online, that there's no evidence for them to be able to go over to the house, even though this is happening to me. This person was in my home. And it's not just that there was this person in my home, it's what Ashley had experienced 2 weeks before that with 5 men trying to enter her home. And then, so it's just a repeated thing. And so it's all of this fear of who else is going to try to enter our homes, who else is going to be around, and no one can do anything about it. Action Center sent a response to me saying, you can go get a no trespassing sign at Walmart. The case has been closed. They couldn't do anything either. And so I know that you guys are saying that we can talk to these people, but no one, 911, code enforcement, Action Center, they couldn't do anything. And I don't know why.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Guys, I'm done. I told you I would show you untruthfulness. I have, not only where they live, but whether or not there were complaints and what they're doing about the complaints. I told you I would show breaking the law. I've done that. I've told you I would show safety concerns that our neighbors have. I understand you guys have a hard job, a very hard job. I understand the regulation allows home sharing. I understand in its purest form, that's one of my neighbors sharing a home. But when we ask to approve somebody who's not one of my neighbors, who has this record, I respectfully suggest there's nothing you can do but turn this application down. If you can't turn this one down, you can't turn down an application. This is what we've lived through. Thank you very much for your attention.
You want to respond to the folks that just spoke?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to, I guess, the claims that we had continuing running the unit, we did have some friends and family stay at the place, so that's probably what they were mistaking it for. With regards to the other property, the other property is actually under a separate LLC, so this is kind of like a learning process for us as well. So the other property is actually under a separate LLC understood. So I thought when I filing the application that they were both separate, and which is why I didn't think we needed to include it. Yeah. And with the trespassing stuff, they live right next to a public land, So not locking your doors and, things like that, just so your friends can come over, it's probably not like the smartest.
All right.
We did need to respond to one thing.
Susan Colmia, 3817 Northwest 70th Street, and I'm the one that sent the email about 7429 Northwest 107th Street. I sent in that.
That's the one that Mr. Wynn just said is in a different LLC.
No, these are all on the county assessor's site under James Wynn. And there are 7 houses owned. by
Okay,
him on
so
the.
can I clarify
Wait,
on that?
one at a time, I'll come back to
Okay,
you.
so I own 7429 Northwest 107 under my name, correct? And that property, me and my brother are, working on that property, managing it. But this other property, 3905 Northwest 70th, this property is actually under a different entity. So it's two separate entities. That's why we didn't, when the question on the application was asked, do we have any other properties under this entity? We didn't know that we have to put all of our properties. I have 13 properties in Oklahoma. If I'm gonna do a home sharing license do I have to, do I have to write them all down? This is a learning experience for us too. We're barely starting to do Airbnbs, and we're trying our best to, work with the neighbors, and we're trying to understand everything that's going on. And I'm open. I have not, you've done so much research on me, but I've never received a phone call or an email from. I'm sorry. What was your name, sir?
Tony Rupert.
Tony Rubens. He's done so much research about me, about where I live, and I've never received a phone call or an email from him about these concerns or problems. So
I think that going back to the March 2nd, because that suggestion was made to Bill, and Bill took a beating last meeting.
Yeah.
And both of you guys are taking a beating again this meeting.
Okay.
It was advised that you guys reach out to them. If I'm the one seeking approval, hold on. If I'm the one seeking approval on an application, I'm going to take the initiative. I'm not going to require the neighbors to reach out to you guys.
Okay.
So I understand your point that you've not received any communication, but the burden is on you to reach out to them, not vice versa.
Okay. Moving forward, I'll definitely take that into consideration.
I did write an email to the neighbors and providing, my contact information if anybody did want to talk, but nobody contacted me either.
I've got a couple of questions, just really quick. I wanted to get clarification on. You mentioned that on the stays after the last hearing, that it was family. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, I had some friends. I think James had some people visiting from Canada as well. Yeah.
So was this family that was staying each one of these instances? You're aware they have several dates in here where they've got photos. How many times did you guys have friends and family stay at the property?
Well, I think I had the March 3rd was one, and then I think the last weekend of March, I had another, one of my former maid's husband came to stay. And then I think James also had a visiting relative from Canada, and he also had some friends that were also from Texas that, I forgot which week it was, but yeah.
And
we had them
can
stay.
email you
Well,
the
some of the concerns that were raised earlier had to deal with honesty, and I do think that that's appropriate here, because you guys are saying that these stays, even after seeing that it was a big deal to the neighbors about operating the Airbnb without a license, there's continued to be stays. Now, I'm all for hearing if there's a special situation or something that required family or friends to take occupancy of the home for a weekend, but I find it hard to believe that this was friends and family every single time. Are you saying that you guys had family members that were responsible for this photo of this group of girls carrying party bags out of the car?
Could I see that photo just to clarify, so I can get clarification?
It's on page 2 of the photos, section 6.
When was
Page, what was that?
March the 11th.
March 11th. Yeah, that was actually one of my college friends from UCLA. So those were probably like the group of girls
that came with him.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you where I'm at on this. I mentioned last time that I think it would be a good idea for you to speak to the neighbors. I think if I remember correctly, I advised everyone to talk to each other, just because a lot of the arguments that the neighbors raise, unfortunately, are things outside of my purview. I don't particularly care where you live. You could live on Mars and purchase property here, and that's not going to preclude me from approving an application. However, I think the honesty thing comes into play because we don't live there. We're relying on what the neighbors are saying and what you guys are saying. And if I can't reasonably rely on the information that you give, then it makes it very difficult for me to believe when you say, hey, I can keep an eye on this property, I can manage and see what's going on.
We live in Oklahoma, and I live 10 minutes away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, give me 1 second. Let me finish. So the other issue that we have is, I believe that advice was shared about getting a property manager. Have you guys looked into that at all? You've shown.
Well, we both manage so, we're kind of a team, so.
Bill does the operations, he does the back-end stuff, and I do the maintenance. I'm more of a hands-on type of person.
Yeah, and we both have access to the monitoring systems in the house.
So this, as you've heard several homeowners state, a lot of people have made claims and had concerns that we rubber stamp these, and I completely get the frustration. We do have a very narrow and limited scope with which to review these. However, I believe within that scope, and I'm only going to speak for me, I believe that I've been presented with enough information to vote against this application. I've never voted against an Airbnb application before, and I've stated clearly, and I stated expressly to you all the last time that you were here, that the things that would make me vote against an application would be poor management. There is the concept of quiet enjoyment that usually pertains to landlords interfering with the tenant so much that they can't enjoy the use of their home. It's rare that you have a situation like this where that interference comes from outside, but I believe that's been the case here. As I try to imagine myself as one of your neighbors living in this neighborhood, I don't particularly think my experience would be good there. I do not want to wake up and find trash from a party from the previous night. I believe we were presented with some photos before where folks had parked on people's lawn. Those are things that there's simply no excuse for. And so I particularly find it offensive to tell somebody or to suggest the idea that they have to keep their doors locked. I'm operating an Airbnb, and perhaps I could make some better instructions to the location of an Airbnb, one that's not licensed, by the way. So I think it's being very insensitive to tell somebody, well, you just got to keep the doors locked. I'm going to vote no against this application today. I've heard enough, and I've asked questions about it, and my colleagues can take over from here and get any clarification that they need, but I want to be really clear about why I'm doing that. It has nothing to do with where you're from, has nothing to do with income. I don't care if you live in $1 million home, a $10 million home. This is poorly managed. I do think that it inhibits people's ability to enjoy and live in their home. And that's the reason I'll be voting no against this application.
I'm so sorry to belabor the point, but James Wynn, the property owner, just told you that the discrepancy was that the 107th Street property was in his name, but that the home in our neighborhood was not in his name. I've already put into evidence my Exhibit 2 showing James Wynn is the owner of the property we have. This is the untruthfulness that he gets out of this because he has two different organizations. It's just simply not true. And when you talk about who you want running an Airbnb in your neighborhood, on this record and this level of untruthfulness, it's just asking too much of me and my neighbors. Thank you.
I've got a quick question.
Can I address?
Hang on, we'll get back to you in a minute.
I've got a weird, I kind of know a
Hold
little bit of.
Okay, we'll get back to you in a minute.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Roberta.
So you just stated, because I know when Marcus was speaking, he mentioned it does not matter where the homeowner is located. They own a home here. You can live out of state. That does not bother me. But you said that you live 10 minutes away, is what your comment was. Evidence was presented that you operate a real estate and property out of California. Is that you?
No.
So you're not the same person as that was presented in.
I used to live in California with my mom about 10 years ago, but that's when I moved to Oklahoma City to work with my uncle. I I worked with Kent for 10 plus, was it like 9, 10 years now? Him and his wife for 9, 10, so he can,
So when did you move back into Oklahoma?
when did I move back to Oklahoma?
Yes.
Well, I started coming out here back in 2013
Okay.
to invest into Oklahoma. So,
Step a little closer to the microphone.
okay.
I'm just trying to, your LinkedIn profile says you live in California.
No, that's where, I used to live in California. I grew up in California, Southern California, Orange County. I lived there for 30 plus years, no, about
So do you,
20-something years.
do you
And-
own or operate JT Real Estate Services?
No, that's my buddy's real estate company. He's a broker there, and I just worked under him for maybe about a year.
Trying to answer some of the-
I got my real estate license back in California because I wanted to learn about real estate. I wanted to invest into real estate.
Exhibit 3 says August 7th, 2017 to present, 5 years, 9 months,
I don't even go on LinkedIn anymore,
at
to be
JT
honest.
Real Estate Services.
Okay. Understood. And that's perfectly fine, but as an attorney, I'd be looking for the same evidence that Mr. Rupert has presented.
Okay.
You were going to speak?
So,
Your name?
Give us your name
yeah,
and
I'm
address
Kent
again.
Brown from 400 Castle Rock Road. I'm a realtor with McGraw Realty. Really, I'm an assistant for my wife, who is a real realtor. I'm the minister who spoke earlier for the cinema. That's why I came here today and found you guys. I've known James and Bill and Wah, who you're talking to, for years. I've shown them houses for years. They live here in the area. I'm going to a housewarming party at their house shortly. I can't speak to any of the property management concerns that have been brought up, but as to the stuff of character and as to the stuff of whether or not they live here, I've seen them with great regularity here in the metro area, sold houses they've lived in through the team that not personally, but the team that I work with has sold houses that they've lived in. So as to whether or not they've been here, are here, and are good people, that has all been my experience. And so I just wanted to let you know that and send a message to my wife, the realtor that's worked with them for many years, and asked her, in your experience, do they leave houses better than they found them in the high end of the comps? And she confirmed all of that. So that she has a really good experience working with them as investors, as people that do high quality work on homes. And so as to all of those things, that's the limit to which I can speak, but to all of those things, in our experience, it's been very good in terms of working with them and properties.
I've tried to be polite and not interrupt, but as a lawyer, that's completely inadmissible in any court of law. All that I have raised is not that he's a bad person, but that he's been untruthful. All he said is he's a good guy and a good real estate guy, and he said it's because his wife told him that, which is hearsay. I'm not trying to be too legalistic, but I'm making one very specific assertion, that he's been untruthful with you and with us.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming to speak to their character. That means a lot, because that is something that I take into consideration. I just feel like there's an abundance of evidence that suggests that what we're being presented has not been on the up and up. I do have another question for the applicant, though. When you all claim that the other property that you were managing was in a separate LLC, and staff can correct me if there's something different in the application that they fill out other than what shows up on what we receive. But under the applicant information, under that section F, subsection E, it says the address of other home sharing properties in the city of Oklahoma City that you own, operate, or are associated with in any way, which, I mean, we saw, I think it was Ms. Dyer earlier, she doesn't own properties, but she regularly lists all the properties that she's associated with. So is that something that you guys just didn't assume that you were associated with that
Right.
property?
I mean, at the time when I was filling that part out for the application, I had the assumption that the property was already transferred under the LLC, and it was no longer under James's name, which is why, this, because we were, when we first planned to do the AME, we were going to put them under separate entities anyways with different managing members on both LLCs. So that's why, but that was a mistake on my part, Like I said, this is a learning process for us, and I've resubmitted the new, the new sheet to Cindy, and with the correct information, at the present time. But we do have, the deed going under the LLC.
But you're associated with the LLC.
I am, yes.
So you, but by default, you would be associated with the property that would be under the LLC, even if that was the case. You would still be associated with that property through your association with the LLC.
Right, but I think James is, was on the application, right?
I'm not sure I'm following the logic there. I think that regardless, you guys are, regardless of the entity that owns the property, you guys are associated with both of those properties, regardless of which entity is entitled to the property.
I have a February 28th.
It's just kind of like a,
Saying James Wynn is associated with the 107th Street property. Yeah.
okay, we, right.
So 3905 Northwest 70th. 3905 Northwest 70th. When I first got that property, the loan was under my name and my name only. So which my lender requires myself to be on title. And when we went to closing, I told my title company that I want the title under this LLC name. And so in my mind, after we closed, after I signed all those documents, that she was going to change it to the LLC name. But unfortunately, this whole time, they haven't. And I actually have proof of that with my title company as well. We actually went there earlier today to switch over the name to the LLC. So at that time of this application, we weren't trying to be untruthful about the other Airbnb, about that Airbnb running as well. We just didn't know that we had to have a home sharing license, so why we're here now, trying to go through the process and trying to apply for it and do the right thing.
So board members, I have the
wait.
application in front of me. And so when this was turned in January, the application was under James, is it Hune? Or
James Wynn.
Wynn, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So he signed the application, and then the warranty deed has the address, and it just has his name, that he's the owner of the property. And that's what we compared the two and go on. At that time, he didn't list any other home share applications. Yesterday, he submitted that supplemental page that I sent y'all, or copied y'all on, where he added that other address. I did not check to see if there was a home share because I'm not working any new cases, but we will check into that, of course. But at the time of the application, he was the single owner of the property.
Again, this is a learning process for us. We're trying to make our good faith efforts, to comply with the regulations.
And I get that it's a learning process, and I want you to learn, and by no means do I want you to take this as me saying you should never operate an Airbnb here. I definitely think that you should go back and consider the things that have happened, but you've clearly got to appreciate what this looks like to us, or at least to me, whenever you have as much protest as you had at the initial hearing.
The only reason why we have this much protest is because, so if you look at the 300-foot radius report, about only 17 or 18 homes should have received the notice. But what has happened is there's a neighborhood association within the, it's called the Edgewater Lakewood Neighborhood Association. What has happened is they've, gathered the troops, against us.
Are you referring to our neighborhood, Lake Point?
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
We're doing one at a time.
Yes.
I completely get that. I understand that. I'm familiar with how the notice process works. I'm a real estate developer, and I can say to a certain degree, I empathize with you when it comes to the situation of notice and people calling people that are outside of legal notice. I myself have stood where you stood and had this entire room filled with protesters and people outside of the room because there weren't any spaces left inside of here. So I get that. What I'm saying is you play the cards that you're dealt. Once you came to that meeting, you saw that these folks were not happy with what you were doing, and you've given me nothing to show that you've tried to mitigate that in any way. And not only that, I've seen the opposite. If you guys not only continue to have folks stay in this property.
So let's take a look at the Action Center's I guess data sheet here. So you notice that we've been listed since September of 2022. So between that time and the date of our application, which was on January 20th, why don't you see any, complaints? There was like 5 months period right there. We have Halloween, you got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, you got New Year's, but you don't see any complaints of any disturbance or anything from our home until the notices were sent out. Then you see the Action Center's call center gets blown up with calls and reports.
I've reviewed that previously.
We all have them.
Yeah, we got a copy of that.
Yes. My point is the fact that you understood that you were going to have this opposition. So I can't tell you how to operate your business, but I have to think that a rational person in the same shoes would say, I know I've got all these neighbors, their feathers are ruffled. Maybe it's not a good idea to have my friends and my college buddies from UCLA come out to this, if I'm taking your word for it.
I mean,
just
it's
saying-
our property, we can do whatever we want with it.
You're absolutely right, and that's actually why I'm here. I'm here to protect private property rights. Folks can come in and say, these guys are from California, they're taking property off of what should be for sale, and although they have really good arguments, you own the property. And I'm here, and we're here appointed to these positions to protect that. What I'm saying is outside of that, I don't believe that you're helping yourself. And I'm only telling you this in the event that you decide you want to purchase more property and submit another application on things that would probably need to be done differently. Because if you've got these folks and they're upset about the way that you're operating it, there has to be some effort made to try to
Yeah,
rectify that.
that's why we're here. We're making a good faith efforts to comply with the regulations.
And we hear their concerns and, so we're gonna.
Okay.
We do hear their concerns and we're gonna make a good faith effort to, take those into consideration and really work on those, we definitely hear them out, so. And I would love to take down whoever's numbers or, if anybody wants to contact me directly, I would love to take down you guys' numbers and, anything that comes up, I would love to work with you guys on, I'm not trying to intrude on the neighborhood. I just, I'm trying to make a better living for myself and my wife and my baby that's on the way,
Okay, all right,
May I speak?
your turn.
All right, Ashley, 7012 Lake Point Drive. I just kind of wanted to circle back on, and as I know I have to address the board, but I also hope you all will listen as I say this. We had a meeting, and there was a lot to learn at that meeting. I had to sit through to be there in opposition a bunch of other applicants, where I myself as a neighbor learned that other applicants put in due diligence to talk to neighbors, to get approval letters from home associations, to do, my thing is, they said they were gonna stop renting it out, like at the end of that day. He was like, we've unlisted it, we're not gonna do it. And whether it's family or not, it's still imposed on the neighborhood. And I would be shocked that it's family, considering the boys who cornered me in my yard said they were there for a bachelor party. And so it's hard to believe they're gonna actually manage things when in their application it states no partying, and then they permitted a party. And so it's just I, as a neighbor who is directly impacted since I live right next to it, I live just south of it, I just don't trust this applicant to operate honestly or to even put in the due diligence, as this is their second time in front of you and they did not even adhere anything that was asked of them to adjust application, to speak to the neighbors. And it's like, that, honestly, that's it. That's just really frustrating.
Where was, what time was the bachelor party in relation?
That was March 3rd. So the next day, after they're saying they're getting their ducks in a row, there's a bachelor party. Maybe it was friends, but I honestly, with all due respect, I don't believe you.
Okay. In the interest of time and procedure, we're beginning to get repetitious and argumentative. I've recognized Mr. Rupert. I'm going to let you finish up.
No, Okay, we have one more witness, very quickly.
Okay, I'm pretty sure, I'm Barbara Rupert. I've already filled out a form. It's my husband, but I think can do my own things. All right. Yeah, as somebody said, we did research, we were learning. I would like to point out that the listing didn't go off of Airbnb until like the day before the hearing, and that when I was looking a week or so before and going into the calendar, it was booked already in March. Well, most weekends. I'm sorry, I didn't have the presence of mind to take a picture. I didn't know this was going to be an issue.
That's good. They were up front. Just wanted to get it clear that this family and friends thing is conflicted by the fact that it was booked, all right? And I am not going to make a closing statement. You all know what I think, and I'll be quiet.
Okay. Before we go further, I've still got quite a few people signed up to speak. We just heard from Barbara. We've already heard from Tiffany. And, okay, hang on a minute. We're beginning to get repetitious, and unless you have something new or different to say from what the other folks have said or something to refute, I want to limit this to something new or different. And the next person, hang on a minute, I'll get back to you. I've got Ben Griffith.
Ben Griffith. I'm the spouse of Ashley Stewart at 7012 Lake Point Drive. And I had a prepared statement. I'm going to bridge it down to about a quarter of what I had in respect of everybody's time. This is honestly what's hilarious, is that this issue is largely out of both the manager's and the neighbor's hands, which is what makes the entire process incredibly ironic, but makes our stance even more defendable. Nonetheless, it makes it all very disappointing. I appreciate the owner flying out from California to gain context on the issue. Let's all admit that that is quite a nuisance, regardless of your stance or your incentives on this issue. I'll repeat a suggestion of long-term leasing on the property. I truly believe that this house being leased as an Airbnb will only cause problems for all three parties in this room, the committee included. I'll be harsh in just one spot here. You say this is a learning experience. Like, straight up, if anything is crystal clear, it's that the shoe does not fit on this property. And I think this is a tough situation. So I'd just like to emphasize that. Thank you all for your time.
You want to respond to him?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a continued assumption that we are not from California. I mean, we are not living in the state. I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know how we're going to prove that. I guess James can show you his license. I still have my California driver's license, yes, but I've been living in Oklahoma for a little over a year. You know, I was part of the California exodus, and, you know, I have chosen Oklahoma to be my new home, so.
Thank you. Now I've got Gary Fletcher. Gary, you want to speak? Do you have anything different to add?
Well,
Name and address first, please.
My name is Gary Fletcher. I live at 3829 Northwest 70th, which is 3 doors down from this house.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And I really appreciate, Tony, you acting as our spokesman. And unfortunately, even with hearing aids, I didn't get everything that was said. But on the credibility, we were sent, as part of the first package, a letter from Bill and stating, as somewhat you've been there today, that your brother James has been living in Oklahoma City for 10 years. Tony, it may be part of the booklet that Tony provided, but the LinkedIn, you all are probably a lot more familiar with LinkedIn than I am, but it seemed like it was a bio that was written by Bill, that he had worked for the JT, which is he's listed on their site, website as an employee, that he'd worked for them since 2015. And again, and I think you all have been provided many documents that Bill had signed as part of the ownership of those 7 properties, and his address is listed as California. In fact, I'm not sure how he is claiming a homestead exemption on one of the properties. And of course, you're supposed to be a resident of the state of Oklahoma to be able to receive that exemption. And his brother Bill may be in that property, but in talking with the county assessor's office, that's the requirement, is that the owner of the property be a resident of the state of Oklahoma, and that you're in that property January 1 of each year that you file for that. And as far as, part of this letter that was with the first one says that you didn't know that you had to have this, wasn't required that you have this home sharing license. For someone that's, before he was with the JT, he was a senior loan specialist with Wells Fargo in California, and so substantial real estate experience. I'm technically challenged, but I went on Airbnb's website, and I think it was 3 clicks that I made from the help center that brought you right to Oklahoma City for the requirements of needing to file for this. So I find it hard to have any credibility, even if he promises on the application to do certain things that will be followed up properly. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Next, I have a Scott, and it looks like Boughton. Did I pronounce that right, Scott? And again, let's skip where everybody lives.
Scott
We've
Bowden,
beat that
43rd.
horse to death.
Scott Bowden, 4013 Northwest 70th Street. I don't have anything to add. I think Tony did a great job.
Okay, thanks, sir. And then a Charles Ellis. Charles? And same thing, can we stick to something different or new?
I am going to talk about the law pertaining to this case. You'd probably figure out later on that I am a lawyer, although I'm retired. But I want to preface it by saying that this concept of a restrictive covenant that was filed when this subdivision was platted contained a provision that said the following lots shall be used only for single-family private residential use only. And Lot 30, Block 4, which is the subject here, is one of the lots that's subject to that restriction. And I disagree with the idea that's been floated in this panel that this is beyond your jurisdiction. It is not beyond your jurisdiction. I will quote you several ordinances of the city of Oklahoma City that full-throatedly endorse and claim the validity, assert the validity of those restrictive covenants and their relevance to all zoning issues that are handled by the city, including this board. On section 59, and by the way, I have a memo that I will give to the clerk for your convenience. In section 59, 1200.10, interpretation, purpose, and conflict of zoning ordinance provides and follows. Interference with conflicting provisions. This chapter is also not intended to interfere with, abrogate, or annul any easements, covenants, or other agreements between the parties unless this chapter imposes a greater restriction on which the provision of this chapter shall control. So basically what we have here is we have a covenant between all the landowners in this subdivision that have agreed a common agreement that they'll all use their property for single-family residential uses only. That's a valid and enforceable commitment. It's also addressed in section 59, 9100 of the city code, which is follows. Regardless of the regulations contained herein, the property owner is advised that there may also be more restrictive regulations in the form of plat restrictions, deed restrictions, declarations of covenants, and restrictions, and platted setback lines which may further limit the use or development of a parcel. And in section 59-9250, it is specific to this Board of Adjustment. It says the Board of Adjustment may grant a special exception for uses specifically authorized. All said uses shall also conform to other applicable standards before their approval is granted. And I submit to you this covenant restriction is certainly an applicable standard present here. Now then, besides the three ordinances I just quoted, there is a state statute that addresses this issue. And it's in the context of a way to amend this restrictive covenant if the applicants so wish. It's in Oklahoma Statutes Title 11, Section 11-41-106. It provides any restrictive covenant on property contained in a residential addition may be amended if, and number 2 is applicable here, if the restrictive covenant has been in existence for at least 15 years and the amendment is approved by the owners of at least 60% of the parcels contained in the addition. So I submit to you that that is the applicant's only remedy in this case, is to organize a vote of all the property owners in the Lake Point Estates addition and try to get 60% of them to approve. From the date of filing these covenants in 1980 to this date, every owner in the Lake Point Estates have honored the covenant to limit the use of their property to private residential use. The granting of the application for home sharing would be a violation of those restrictions. Now, I've heard it said in this panel that you have no authority to enforce this restrictive covenant. Well, likewise, you have no jurisdiction to nullify this restrictive covenant. If I can use a metaphor, this restrictive covenant is part of the legal landscape that you're dealing with. You're living in this landscape and you have to acknowledge it. And it's here. And the city of Oklahoma City says it's valid. And they say you've got to administer it with that in mind. And this is a continuing violation of that covenant. Now, there's another thing that I'd like to for the applicants' information. In my opinion, anyone, no matter what this panel does here today, no matter which way they vote, that does not have any effect of nullifying or changing this restrictive covenant. And this restrictive covenant can be enforced by any one of the 90-some-odd property owners in Lake Point Estates. And it can be, and I think they would have an actionable claim against the applicants for violation of those covenants and could recover damages. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, that's everybody signed up. Hang on just a minute. Tiffany, you wanted to come back? Now, is this something different or additional from what you said before?
It's clarifying.
Go ahead.
Basically, just clarifying the fact that the only way that we found their other property, the one on 107th, was over a week after the board meeting. And at the board meeting, he said that as soon as they learned that they needed a special exception, they wanted to comply. And that's how we were at the first board meeting. But they were running an entirely different property full well knowing that they never applied to a special exception for that property. And the only reason it was taken down was because it was complained about. And this was on March 10th, I believe, and then it was taken down. So it wasn't taken down in good faith.
You want to address the...
Yeah, we do have an application pending for that other property as well.
Okay.
And that we did stop once we received the deceased.
Right. I mean, that property was a little, like I said, this is a learning process. It's kind of a little, because most of the stays that we had for that property, it was, 30 days, sometimes 28 days. So, and it varies. Sometimes we had like a week. So we didn't really understand if we were, fell into the home sharing requirements.
Can I say something about that?
Yep, go ahead.
I sent to the board 17 separate reviews for 7429 Northwest 107th Street, dating back from August 2020 to January of 2023.
Yeah. We've got those in the packet, and we've got quite a few in the packet, actually. So, okay. That's everybody that signed up. I think we've hashed this out. Does the board have any questions or comments?
I've got comments. All right. Want to address a couple of things. Yes, as far as the violation of the bylaws and the restrictive covenants, I do agree you've got an actual item, but this is not the forum. Definitely district court is going to be your forum for that purpose. And I think that we've acknowledged that before, but we're very mindful of that. With regards to this to the applicants, look, everyone's learning. We've had people apply for their special exception over here within the last several months, and they've been operating for 6 months. And they've not had any issues. And we realize that everyone's learning. And that's part of the reason that we go through the 1-year process, right? And I think that we are I do not believe that we've, on an initial, approved more than 1 year. But as you saw earlier today, we've had a renewal, no issues, we extended that period. And this is a little bit different in that we do have people protesting from the very beginning. We were here a month ago. Bill, you got beat up. You guys are getting beat up again. I do not see that an effort was made to comply with our recommendations to try to mitigate, to try to reach out and set up some sort of a meeting with the neighbors. I would encourage that. Bill, I need you to hear the neighbors. When Tiffany says that I opened my door and she has somebody walk into her home, me personally, I would be very offended and I would be scared to be in that position. And then that's something that stays with you the rest, for at least the next couple of years. Is someone going to walk through my home? I don't know. And luckily that ended peacefully for that situation, but I'm sure that she's going to have to live with that for a while. And same thing with the other young lady that was across the street. A woman with 5 gentlemen, with 5 men, or however many guys it was, that creates your home has put your neighbors in danger. And I don't feel like you're being a good neighbor right now. So I definitely would encourage you to reach out to them and have discussions. The fact that we did suggest modifying the application from 13 guests down to possibly 6, I think would help mitigate some of these parties, because people are not going to take this home as an opportunity because you allow that many guests in one home to have the opportunity to create some of these situations. I do, going back to the 2 situations, I do find it strange that it occurred after March 2nd. I don't know if they were guests, if they were not guests, I don't know, but the situation was created. So to me, listening from this side, I would have to question whether or not it was families and friends. I'll take it at face value, because there's so many other things that are egregious right now that I cannot pass this motion. And as far as notice, the notice is the minimum requirement, right? That does not mean that the other people that may be affected by your home can't come in and protest. But that's just the minimum standard. So the fact that they have contacted the rest of the HOA and the rest of the neighborhood, that's good on them. That's part of the reason the HOAs and they exist, is for that purpose.
It's not an HOA, it's just a neighborhood association.
And that's fine. It's a community, right? I live in a neighborhood. I feel like we're a community. I'll be honest with you, this community right here is probably stronger than my neighborhood, and I feel like we've got a pretty decent one. So I do want to mention that. For those purposes, I'm going to vote no, but that's not going to preclude you from you guys submitting an application at a later point. But there's a lot of talks and conversations that I feel like you guys are going to have with your neighbors. That's all I have.
Anything else from the board? Because I think we've heard it all. I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to deny case number 15283 in the application as stated.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to deny the application. So a yes vote is to deny. Did I say that right? Okay, now you can vote. Okay, you're denied. All right.
Item number 28 was continued, so we're at the end of our docket.
Do we have any additional items? Any communications? Board? Okay. What did I miss out? Oh, that wasn't in my packet. Number 28? Yeah, it was continued. We did that at the beginning. Okay. Got it. Okay, Reed, it's your turn. Up to municipal council. You want to say anything? Citizens to be heard?
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
And really a question for council. I'm not an attorney. I've spent some time, most of my professional career has been in real estate, and so I feel like I'm pretty well versed in a lot of the laws as pertains to covenants and restrictions. That is probably, that is the most compelling argument that I have ever heard about Board of Adjustment having jurisdiction over, or at least being able to consider the bylaws. So I would like to review what he submitted, but also get an official response. And it didn't have to be today, but something
That's
stating.
so kind of you.
Yeah, no, yeah, it can be whenever, but like, it was quite compelling. I mean, the way that I interpret it, I see how he came to that conclusion, and I'm inclined to think that maybe I've not fully understood it completely. I think he Cynthia, did he give it to you?
Because if he did, sure, I'd love to look at it and see. The general rule, of course, is you do have a district court remedy, and I agree absolutely with what your fellow board member said. That is something that is something that is presentable in the district court. But cities are allowed to have their own ordinances that say specific things. It would be an appealable item in district court to say, well, no, the statute overrules what your code says. And I would certainly like to explore it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to speak to it now because I haven't seen
no.
it.
No, it's just interesting because that's the way that I've understood it. The legal counsel that I've received whenever we put our CCRs together states exactly that the venue would be through district court. But his argument that this is a part of the landscape would suggest that for BOA, like our ordinances would have to include or at least have respect to what is already in the covenant. So that's just that one piece that I want to get clarification on.
And we will look at this, but keep in mind that what you are to review is what's before you. And what's before you is an application for home sharing. And so based on the code, based basically on the things that are in your staff report, is this person entitled to a home sharing license or not?
I would also like to note that it's something that you would think would be able to be implemented into the code itself, subject to any restrictions, covenants and restrictions that may be of record that the property may be
yeah,
subject
that
to.
changes it altogether.
And I'm wondering if that's a possible solution to address this situation, because we hear this argument over and over again, and it's going to be up to the city whether or not they would want to change the ordinance. I mean, we complain all the time about laws and say, well, the proper place to get that fixed is with the legislature. So I think in this case, it's something maybe that the city council did or did not consider when passing.
And of course, the council is the city's legislature, so
Right.
for purposes of that, but I didn't write this ordinance. I will
Right.
visit with the person who did and see if that was a consideration. It may have been. They may have explored it and decided for whatever reason to go this way, but I will look into it and I will have something for you.
And with that too, though, if the HOA says it's limited to a single family home, they were okay with a year lease where you have long-term tenants. The bylaws are not going to dictate a single family owner being, what happens in that situation?
You're
Is
correct.
that, you know,
Yeah, that's the
are they
next
gonna
logical
be
path, is the argument there is, how do you define it?
Right.
And even the
so,
private portion.
and they would, and a lot of these bylaws requiring 60, I think my bylaws require maybe 70.
Yeah.
Now, they're gonna have to amend their bylaws to incorporate some sort of timeline or time restriction or, you know, within that. So I think that it's not a clear-cut answer, because
Certainly not
even if we,
today, it's not.
right, and so even if we have to consider the covenants and restrictions, what is, by that standard, we can approve anyone. I mean, a year-long tenant, and as a property owner myself, I've got to be mindful, I usually have tenants and we lease them out for a year. You know, I don't,
But the other side of that is when people move into a neighborhood, that's one of the things they want to do.
right,
Is they say, how do we live peaceably here?
right.
What are the rules? Is there a homeowners association? What are the rules? And if they like the rules,
Right.
then they go with that. And then if the rules change in the middle of it, then
Right.
they say, wait, we have rules.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, but I'd be interested to hear, get
well,
some sort of formal
I have
opinion
it,
on
and
that.
I will look at it, and I will visit with the person who actually wrote the ordinance to see what was considered.
Okay,
And then I will give you something
thank you.
back.
Okay, I think we're down to adjourn, or at least I am.
thought
I
we were
forget, do we have
already
to motion that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.